Welcome to another episode of The Play Callers. This is the interactive sports talk show, and I am, of course, one half of the dynamic duo, Tranquil Box, aka Steven Box, and joined as always by my co-host, who I finally learned to point out correctly.
The other half of the dynamic duo, Cool McCain.
So I just want to, first of all, say welcome to everybody for the week. Whether you are listening to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever, or whether you are joining us live on YouTube, we appreciate you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and then hit that share button. And that way we can go ahead and really get this thing jumping off. So cool, man. It's so weird. I'm still getting used to this whole thing of we actually have basketball in the playoffs with football, and there's baseball going on, and the WNBA and hockey, and it's like a sports cornucopia, man.
So many things, man. So many things. Also, I just want to remind everybody, also hit that like button, watch the old videos, and hit those like buttons there as well.
Absolutely, and if you guys tune in with us here on YouTube at Fridays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can be a part of the conversation. So something we do a little different.
Oh yeah.
So cool, man. What you want to talk about first, man? I mean, I'm a little torn. NBA playoffs. Our Lakers and Nuggets are playing tonight. Start of the Western Conference Finals. So both pretty excited for that. NFL came back last week. Neither one of us were so quite excited about that based on our team's performances. But that's all right. We're going to bounce back. So
Absolutely. So many things to talk about, man. But I think we should start just, quick update for everybody in regards to WNBA playoffs. We talked about they were starting last week. So we've hit the elimination games that pretty much happened. So now we've, gotten down to what we, call the Final Four. So, we have the Las Vegas Aces and the Connecticut Sun playing. That's one of the semifinal games. They're playing the best of 5 series. Their games are going to start on Sunday at 1. And there'll be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, next Sunday if needed. And then if a game 5 is needed, that would be next Tuesday the 29th. Right, so that's going to be one of the playoff series. The other is going to be the Seattle Storm and the Minnesota Lynx. And essentially, schedules running the same days. Only difference being they're playing after the first games. So they're pretty much doing kind of like what we would do with the NBA if the schedules would match up, where they both kind of play the same day, but they would actually match up because they had just a single game. So no 7-game series. And, Lakers waiting like 20 days for the Nuggets or Clippers decide they want to actually win the game. Las Vegas, the Aces and the Seattle Storm had the best records in the WNBA, 18-4. So those would be the two teams that most people would expect to win, but we'll see. And then for those of you who slightly follow the WNBA or may follow it, the Las Vegas Aces is one of the best teams. They have the MVP of their league, which is A'ja Wilson. She's a 2020 MVP. She just got her award a few days ago. So, the MVP of the WNBA will be in action. They got to buy straight to this round. So they'll be seeing their first playoff action. It'll be exciting, and it'll be a good alternative for those who are used to 3-4 basketball games on the weekend for the NBA. You kind of shift some of that, watching WNBA games, still get some basketball in you if you're not watching college football because your team's either not playing or their game got canceled. It's just happening quite a bit.
Yeah. So
let's not throw that out there.
Yeah, so one thing I do want to just kind of remind people about too, if they're not already familiar with the WNBA, they did a little different with the single elimination. So the first round, you had the 5 and 6 and the 7 and 8 seeds playing, and then it was like 5 and 8 and 6 and 7 seeds played each other. The winner of those games then went on to play the 3 and 4 seeds, who got an automatic bye into the second round. The winners of those games are now playing the 1 and 2 seeds, who got an automatic bye into the third round of the playoffs. So a little bit different format. So it should be intriguing to see because you talk about the Lakers waiting forever for the Nuggets or the Clippers. This 1 and 2 seed, they've been waiting all week to find out who they're gonna play. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. Like I said, it's a different brand of basketball, but it's still exciting for those who really do love basketball. And you may not be into college football. If you're just a basketball person, definitely recommend for you to have something else to tune into that I think you'd enjoy. Give it a shot. Yeah. And I'm always going to advocate for the WNBA. Those ladies ball.
Absolutely, man. Well said. Well said. So I guess since we're already on the topic of basketball, going to transition and talk a little about a little NBA. So before we get to the current series, we got to talk about the last round because things have happened since our last show. The Clippers, who a lot of people, not me, but a lot of people had them picked as a NBA title favorite, and they are eliminated, ironically enough, by your own team. So your own team made you wrong, man.
If you're gonna be wrong, let it be your own team that proves you wrong. Yeah. I'm always down with that.
And then we had obviously Miami had locked up their spot. I believe they had already locked up when we had the show on Friday, but Boston and Toronto were still playing. So Boston did advance, and they are currently
one more game that they end up playing like Saturday or Sunday or whatever it was that they crushed Houston, but then they had one more game.
Yeah. So when you look at this last round, that Toronto and Boston series was just bananas. I mean, you're talking about two teams that was going at it. We talked about that a little bit last week about how fun that series was. But of course, the one everybody's been talking about this week is the Nuggets and the Clippers. The Nuggets now 2 series in a row have come back from 3-1 deficits. I don't know how many Lucky Charms you have to eat every morning to be able to pull that off, but you guys are clearly stockholders in Lucky Charms, eating those every day for breakfast, multiple bowls at a time. But the Clippers, man, what happened? Like, as a Nuggets fan, I'm curious. Do you feel like how much of it do you feel was the Nuggets? Because obviously we don't want to completely discount what the Nuggets did. How much of it was what the Nuggets were doing versus how much of it do you think were other factors directly related to the Clippers?
So I'll say this, man. The first thing is the Clippers, I think, already had mentally, even before the playoffs started, once this bubble situation happened. First, they didn't want to come. Then I think they already felt like they were going to make it to play the Lakers. So they kind of, they didn't take it 100% serious.
Yeah.
Not our fault, but I think they kind of had put in their own mind that, oh, yeah, we just got to be ready for the Lakers. And they were kind of looking towards that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a disrespectful thing when you're playing a team and you're not really engaged into that series because you feel like you can just turn it on when you get to the next series.
Yeah.
I feel like a little bit of that might happen early on in the series when they were up 3-1. You had the Morris twins yelling about to go to the F home. Well, just so if you ever see this, you went to F home. But I think the important thing is that we've seen a lot of people emerge. You see, as a Nuggets fan, and the Clippers saw this as well. Jamal Murray has really emerged in the bubble, especially in the playoffs. We've seen the Joker do his thing, pump his numbers up, those high arcing threes, loving it. He's been playing some defense. He lost weight, so he's able to, be a more versatile player. We've seen Michael Porter Jr. Take on a more involved role with the team, being another offensive weapon, actually starting to play some defense. Young, this is his first actual year playing, even though he was drafted last year due to all the back issues. Gary Harris is back. Because remember, when we started in the bubble, we didn't have Jamal Murray or Gary Harris.
Yeah.
So we got both of those guys back throughout the process. So now we have this starting backcourt actually playing. which makes a difference. And I think those guys we got a lot of young, a lot of hungry guys. We got a mix of some vets. We got one of the Plumlee brothers. You know, it's a good mix of youth and energy and excitement with a little bit of older guys that know how to play, as well as Mike Malone. The coach does not get enough credit for our team. This is a team that even me as a fan in the first round was completely pissed at those guys because they mailed it in for like 2 games against Utah. They just mailed it in.
Yeah.
And normally when you do that, you go home. Yep. They were lucky enough to come back from it and win the series. Then you get in the next round, you know, you get beat pretty soundly the first game. The second game you win. Third, fourth games, you lose. So here we go again. Down 3-1. Mm-hmm. All right. So, you know, win a game, cool. All right. We get to game 6. It's like, I feel like a little bit was the Clippers like, you know, we still got 2 more chances. Then we beat them there. We got the momentum. Now we're going into game 7. And, you know, Kawhi picked a night. I guess you don't really pick it, but Kawhi had a night where he wasn't scoring at the clip that he was normally throughout the series. Paul George did what he normally does in closeout games. And a lot of the other guys just didn't pick up the slack. The simple fact of the matter is we changed our defense. We forced the ball into Kawhi's hands and forced him to be a point forward. And that's not a strength. That's something that he could do on occasion, but that's not something that he does game to game on a regular basis. So our coaching staff put together a different game plan those last few games, and we threw different looks and zones. We had times where we had Jokic up top. We had times where we dropped him back. You know, so we did some things, and we used the length and athleticism to disturb what the Clippers wanted to do. And the Clippers, they just haven't been the same in the bubble as far as defense, or they've been going against guys that just have been attacking them really well. So I'm just going to assume it's probably a combination of the two. And at least part of it is that they haven't been playing like they normally play. But at the end of the day, had 3 chances to close us out. You couldn't get the job done. So you have to give the credit to the Denver Nuggets, the coaching staff, the team. You know, we don't really have a lot of family in the bubble. The last I've heard, the only family that was there was Michael Porter Jr.'s dad was there. So essentially, this is a team that don't even have a family there. And, you know, they're getting it. Maybe some people came now, who knows? But, just, you know, you got to go out, you got to play your game. We've been doing it throughout the playoffs. We're getting these dumb situations being down 3-1. Yeah. We'll talk about this later, but if we do this time, I think we're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, so, you know, I told you game 6. You didn't get to see the end of the game because you were watching the Eagles game. And the Niners game wasn't on yet, so I was kind of flipping back and forth between Red Zone Channel and your game. And I watched pretty much the whole 4th quarter of game 6. And I sent you a message. I was like, bruh, y'all done took these boy hard. Like, they done. Like, they look like they are shell-shocked right now. So I think, you know, it's like what you said. I think they really thought they were going to be able to come in and coast and just be able to automatically get to the finals, play against the Lakers. And that's really what, and they're like, oh, we'll just turn it on then. And I got a couple of thoughts on that. The first one is, I think when they went up 3-1, they just kind of assumed y'all were going to lay down and stroll over. When you didn't, they were like, okay, well, you know, they had a 1 game, whatever. Then when you came out of 1 game 6, I think they were like, bro, what's going on? Like, what? Why can't we finish this team off? It is, I mean, you saw game 7, so you know by the 4th quarter of game 7, they were done, man. They had no fight left in them whatsoever. They literally just lay down and quit by the 4th quarter of that game 7. It was ridiculous. Like, there was no fight left in them whatsoever. And my thing,
it wasn't ridiculous from my point of view.
Yeah.
I feel what you're saying.
So my thing is, and I'm kind of borrowing a little bit from an article I was reading the other day, but I really agree with his point, is nobody outside of Kawhi, and even he's kind of questionable because he's only really done it a couple times, but nobody else on that team has earned the right to be able to feel like, hey, I can coast and we can still get this done. They haven't earned that right. So I don't know why they thought they could do that. No one questions if LeBron goes out there and he kind of lays off for a couple games. No one's going to really give him too much trouble for it because they were like, hey, LeBron can turn the switch on whenever he needs to. He's shown it over the years. He has that switch. He can turn it on and off. Like I said, Kawhi kind of has that, but he really hasn't even proven himself. And nobody else on the team, especially not playoff P, has proven that they have a on switch at all that they are capable of hitting. So for them to act like, oh, this is just gonna be easy series, Denver, who you just saw come down from a 3-1 series deficit, you just thought they were just gonna lay down and roll over and let you coast into the finals? Nah, bro. I don't know what they were thinking. But I also don't want that to come across as me discounting Denver because to be able to stick with it and actually come back from 2-3-1 deficits in the same playoffs, bro, that's amazing. And if y'all weren't playing the Lakers, I would be rooting for you.
First time ever.
Look, if you weren't playing the Lakers, I'd be rooting for you.
Hey man, if you weren't playing the Clip, if you weren't playing us, I may be rooting for you.
Yeah, probably not, but maybe. So, speaking of, man, let's talk a little bit about our series. So, we're just real quick. We'll keep it a little bit short, but what's your prediction for this series? Are you finally joining the Nuggets bandwagon?
7 games. I'm torn because I've been saying we're going to lose and we've been winning. So I don't want to say we're going to win. But then I'm a fanboy as well. I'm going to say Lakers in 7.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to say Lakers in 6. And I will tell you my primary reason for saying 6 is I'm scared if we take out the game 7. Just to be honest about it. If y'all can take us to 7, I'm legitimately scared we might lose. Because we talked about this. Like, what's interesting about this series is neither team has come out strong in any other series. Like, both of our teams, I think y'all actually came out strong game 1 against Utah, and then you kind of fell apart, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, the beginning of the series, neither team has played that well. Now, later in the series, both teams have played extremely well. So I think that's what's going to be intriguing about this series is can one of us, obviously one of us has to win the first few games. So can one of us step up and get those wins and put the other person in deficit? Because like you said, I do think if y'all fall down 3-1 in this series, you're not coming back from that. Like, it's not going to be a third time. Because unlike another team who occupies the locker room down the hall at Staples Center, the Lakers are not mentally soft. Yeah, I said it. The Clippers are mentally soft.
Well, man, according to the Clippers, they weren't mentally soft. They didn't have a good game plan. They were fatigued and tired,
There
was some strife between Montrezl Harrell and Paul George and all kinds of things that came out now.
Well, man, if you have internal beef in your locker room, you were too fatigued and tired to go out there and put in your best effort, and you didn't have a good game plan, that to me is the definition of you were mentally soft. So, y'all let me know. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all agree or not. Are the Clippers mentally soft or not?
I'm just saying, like, I do believe we can get to game 7. We can get like a 50-50, but I have to be honest and real with it and say that, this will be the first time that a lot of these guys would have been on this stage. And you do have to lend some credence to, if you look back through the NBA, there's very few times where guys haven't been through the playoffs, haven't had to face adversity and fight, get to the next level before they can break through. So I look at this and I say, it's possible we get to game 7 or, we come out, we play out of our minds and we end up, winning the series. But we're looking at it realistically. The Lakers are the veteran team. They've been here multiple times. Davis hasn't, but LeBron has. A lot of those guys on those teams have been on championship teams. Rondo, Danny Green, and other guys I'm not purposely leaving anybody out. You know, Dwight Howard's been in the finals before, or at least deep into the playoffs. You know, JaVale McGee was on the Nuggets at one point when we were having, you know, playoff success a few years ago. So there's a lot of those guys that have at least some experience, you know, in the playoffs and going deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
You look at Denver, you got Paul Millsap, who, you know, he's been in the playoffs. He's a veteran. But you look outside of that, and you just have what experience we've had the last couple of years, you know, on this team pretty much. You know, Plumlee, I think in some of the teams he was on, he you know, may have had a little bit more playoff experience. But you're not looking at a team that has a resounding large amount. Oh, and let me not forget Jeremy Grant. He went in the playoffs almost every year when he was with OKC. But you don't have the same majority of guys who have any experience outside of being on this team, you know, in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So by this being new ground for us, the Western Conference Finals, you know, it's interesting to see if the moment will be too big, or if we'll be able to say, you know what, who cares if it's too big or not? We here, nobody expects us to win anyway. So whatever we do, you know, it's icing on the cake. Nobody even expected us to be here. So I think that's one benefit that we have. We can go out and play loose. If we were to get up 2-1 or 3-1, not saying we will, but just for example purposes, if we were able to get up, you know, on the Lakers, I don't think we feel the same pressure, because it's like, even if we go out there and we lose the series, we were up on the Lakers 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals, whereas the Lakers have the burden of needing to win.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers don't want to lose to the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. So I think that's one thing that, you know, could benefit us.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting for me in seeing LA is, obviously LeBron's going to handle that pressure just fine. Rondo's going to handle that pressure just fine. Even though Anthony Davis hasn't really been here before, I think he'll handle it fine, only because all the pressure is not going to be put on him. He's just going to be basically asked to go out there and play his game. So he's not going to necessarily feel the pressure of that as being the guy, like when he was over in New Orleans. So I think he'll be okay. What I'm kind of wondering is, how are some of the younger guys? Got a guy like Caruso, who's been playing really well. How's he going to handle the increased pressure of being at this stage, especially if it's a tight series? So those are the kind of guys I'll be looking for. Guys like Danny Green and Rondo and LeBron, I'm not worried about those guys. Even JaVale McGee, I'm not worried about those guys. But it's some of those role players, because let's be real, we're going to need those role players to play at least halfway decently in order to win the series.
Oh, yeah, because we coming 10 plus deep. We coming with the, you know what I'm saying? The rotations is coming. So it's going to be fresh dudes in the game.
Yeah. Now, I do just want to go ahead and point out real quick, because I got called a homer last Friday, or week before, when I said that there was absolutely no reason that Houston should be able to win more than one game against the Lakers.
And I stand by my statement.
And I just want to point out that they only won one game against the Lakers. So
I stand by my statement. To make that prediction before the series was over was completely homerist.
Well, I made it before the series even started, so
I'll give you props for being correct, but it was done in homerism, and I stand by that comment.
Hey, I just said it was realistic homerism. I didn't say it was a homerism.
Nah, Houston should have been able to win another game. Houston doesn't have heart as currently constructed. They have to go out and get some heart. I was under the impression that Denver needed to go out and get some heart, but we found it somewhere. Yeah. Maybe it was in the locker room, or, you know, maybe when Morris decided he was going to cuss out Paul Millsap and tell him that we was going to F home. Maybe that was a spark. Yeah. It was, thank you. But, you know, I think Houston's a team that talent's there. I mean, we said over and over again, the biggest reason they weren't going to win a series was you don't have bigs. Yep. It's fine if you want to go to lineups where you don't have bigs. You know, Boston does that sometimes, and we'll get to that series. But you can't play an entire game and have no bigs that you're playing. Yep. Which all those guys like, 6'7"? That's not going to work in today's NBA. It's not going to work in any era NBA.
I think they got one person who's like 6'10", but yeah.
Maybe 6'10", whatever. Yeah. I don't even think anybody 6'10" played. They may have been 6'10", but they didn't play. I think the tallest person that played was Robert Covington. I think I remember them saying he was 6'7".
Yeah. So yes,
you can't win like that.
But man, my thing with Houston was I just didn't think the small ball could win out, and that's really what was the key to that series. It's going to be interesting to see this current matchup. Obviously, we're going to match up a little differently, so it will be interesting to see. But let's head over to the other side, and I want to talk a little bit about because I know we still want to talk a little about NFL here too. So, but I do want to go ahead and talk about this Miami and Boston series. So, in the first two games, and I've learned my lesson here. Normally, I don't pay too much attention after the first two games because my philosophy has always been you never know where the series is going to go until both teams at least have one home game. Which in the bubble, there's no such thing. So, kind of threw me off a little bit early on in the playoffs. But I've adjusted now. So I still like to wait till after game 3 before really jumping off a cliff and determining anything. But I want to know from you as a former player and as a former basketball coach, what are you seeing Miami do that is allowing them to beat Boston, or are they just a better team?
Miami is the better team. Boston has the better talent. Miami's the better team. Let me explain the difference for those who may not understand. So, a team is normally greater than the sum of its parts, right? You have different guys that fill different roles, but they're able to adjust their games to work in a team environment, right? So I may sacrifice points to be the hustle guy, the rebounder, the defender. I may sacrifice being an assist guy to take more shots to make sure that we are in the game. I may sacrifice my scoring averages to make sure I get the rest of my team involved so that we are all playing well. Boston, on the other hand, and Kendrick Perkins said this as well. I normally don't agree with him, but I actually do for once. Boston is playing slightly selfish, and I don't think it's purposely selfish, like screw you through this, but that's the way they've been winning is kind of hero ball. Yep. Kind of what Houston did last year, where you had 1, 2, maybe 3 guys that normally took certain shots, and then everybody else just kind of got theirs and picked up the scraps. I mean, essentially, you have Kemba or Marcus Smart. Sometimes they're together, but normally it's one or the other. Then you have Jaylen Brown and you have Jason Tatum. So these guys are more dominant players, ball dominant. They take a lot of shots. You're in a series now where you need the guys below them to also Tice and different guys on the bench. You need them to come up and be able to make some shots for you and do more. But in order to do that, you kind of have to sometimes say, I know I could make this shot. I know I could take this dude, but my teammate's out here open and he can get a shot that he can make to get him more involved in the game. And I think they haven't gotten to the point yet in Boston where Brown and Tatum understand that. I think Kemba understands that. I think Marcus Smart understands that, at least to an extent. But you have 2 guys who are under 25 as the main 2 guys on the team. And then without Hayward, they're pretty much the 2 main vocal leaders because they're the 2 best players. Right. So I think that it's just a regrouping thing. It's a mind state change for Boston. I don't expect Boston to go down 3-0. I expect them to get back in game 3, make some adjustments, and get more of the team involved. But to Miami, Jimmy Butler said, I'm purposely not scoring to give other guys a chance to get in the game. Goran Dragic is playing a lot of minutes. Nunn is not hardly playing because Dragic has the experience. Mm-hmm. And he's going out there and saying, screw the assist and all that. I need to go out here and score buckets for my team. Yeah. I do need to set people up, but when I have shots, I need to take them. Yeah. He's doing it. You got Duncan Robinson, who has a specific skill. He's doing that. You've got Tyler Hero, who's coming off the bench. He's a swing kid. You can put him in to play point. You can put him in to play 2. You can put him in to play 3. You got Bam Adebayo. You got a center out here making beautiful passes.
Yeah.
And then he's getting dunks. You got everybody giving up the ball. You got the ball moving. No one's worried about who has the most points. Nobody's worried about who did or didn't take the shot. You open, take the shot. You miss it, oh well. We'll try to get the board. If we don't, it is what it is. When you got critical situations, you got Jimmy Butler as your main go-to guy. You got Dragic as a good veteran, as the backup guy. On defense, you got Bam guarding the rim, getting rebounds, going to the hole, being aggressive. So you have everyone doing what they need to do. They have good synergy on that team right now. They're not worried about individual. They're worried about winning. There's no I in team. People say there's a me in team. But seriously, to win in the NBA, in the playoffs, you've got to have a team that's playing the way Miami's playing. They're the epitome of team basketball right now, and that's why they're winning, and that's why they're where they are.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with your general consensus is there. You know, Boston definitely has more talent. Miami is playing much better as a team. And when I look at the 4 teams that are actually remaining in the playoffs, Boston is the team. Sorry, G-Sos, if you tuning in right now, man. Not trying to talk bad about your team here, but they are the team that is not playing as much like a team as the other 3 are. The other 3 are actually playing more as a unit. You know, when you look at the Lakers, it's primarily on the defensive side that they play as a unit. They're not necessarily doing it so much on offense. The Nuggets are kind of similar. They're getting a little bit more people involved offensively. Miami is doing it better than everybody else. They're playing as a cohesive unit on both sides, offensive and defensive. So it's definitely an interesting series. I do think that Boston came really close winning game 2. I think they're going to bounce back. They're going to find a way to get a couple wins in this series, and it's going to go 6 or 7 games. But so far, Miami is finding a way to get the job done, and they're up 2-0.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Boston's coming off a big emotional series against Toronto where they were pushed and where some of these deficiencies were thrown out there for Miami to be able to sit back at home and watch.
Yeah, because you're talking about a Toronto team that is not as talented as Miami is.
Nowhere near, but the teamwork, that was teamwork. Boy.
Yeah. So they get a chance to see that. So it will be interesting. So what are your predictions on this series? I know we're already 2 games in, but what are your predictions on that
one? Miami is 6.
I can dig that. I do think Boston will find a way to win a couple games in this series. Yeah, but I could see that being realistic because Miami, like you said, they are the better team. So man, our game is actually tipping off right now, so we're going to make sure we get off on time tonight.
Or as close to it as possible.
Right. So if anybody got any comments, go ahead and make sure you get those in now. We will not be answering questions the last 2-3 minutes of the show. We'll be like retail employees on Christmas Eve at 5:59. Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Sorry. The register's already closed. So we got to talk a little NFL though, man.
Got to go over the games from last week. Got to hit the games that are coming up this week. So last week, big week for some teams, bad week for some teams, and of course we had a Thursday game. So now you go look at last week. We started with Seattle and Atlanta. Seattle came out. They out offense Miami. They out offense Atlanta, and then they played enough defense to get the win. Big games from both quarterbacks. Decent running game for Atlanta with Todd Gurley. So hopefully, he's a guy that went to the same high school I graduated from. Mm-hmm. So always gonna cheer for dudes that come from where you came from.
Right.
So glad to see him doing well. But just the pretty simple game. Seattle's the better team. They won. Not a big surprise.
Yeah.
Jets and Bills. They had 2 young quarterbacks. One had more weapons around him than the other, and he won. And that was in Buffalo. You know, it's not really a lot to say about that game. I don't know what your thoughts are, but all I can say.
So real quick on both of the games, just make a couple quick points. The Falcons game is interesting because they started off slow last year. They came on real strong at the end of the season. I thought they were going to maybe be able to carry some of that momentum over. They didn't, and you really have to kind of wonder because Dan Quinn was on the verge of getting fired last year. So if they don't start winning some games, and I know we'll talk here in a little bit about who needs to win, but if they don't start winning some games, Dan Quinn's seat could get real hot real fast this year. And the Jets game, to me, the big story there is Sam Darnold. He's not taking the steps forward that he needs to take right now, and you have to start to wonder, are the Jets going to have to draft another quarterback or try to make a move because he might not be the guy. He might not be the answer there.
I tell you, for me, for Sam Darnold, I don't see progression, but I think there's factors outside of him. You got to give a young wide receiver, a young quarterback, a good wide receiver, and a good tight end. Guys that can make plays for him, and you also have to give them a running back.
Yeah.
When got Lev Bell, he's always hurt. You've got to put the right pieces around him. I made this argument about several quarterbacks, and for the most part, I've been right. Sometimes I'm wrong, but you have to give a quarterback a good receiver, or a really good receiver, or two okay receivers that can make catches for him.
Yeah.
You got to give him a tight end that's at least able to run a couple of routes, get some catches, be a little versatile block for him in a lot of different places, and you got to give him a running back that can get him some yards to make teams back off.
Right.
If you don't have those things, no quarterback can be successful. So Darnold might be a bust, but you've got to give him the things to really see.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of those guys, if he gets out there and gets in a situation where he's got weapons, he may be serviceable. I'm not saying he's going to be a Pro Bowl player, but I think he can be possibly serviceable. But we'll see. Maybe the Jets will get it together.
Yeah.
You never know.
I hope not this week.
I doubt it'll happen this week, man. I doubt it'll happen. We'll just knock out the games, a couple of times. Had the Bears and Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Bears actually won the game. Stafford had the better stats, but Trubisky had 3 touchdowns in the fourth to help the Bears win. I know we've joked on here, all over sports radio, everywhere in the country. We've joked at the Bears and Mitch Trubisky start. At least for one game, it looked like the right decision. Granted, it was the Lions, but at least it looked like the right decision.
Well, I'll just say this: Bears fans, you're welcome for me picking the Lions to win. Lions fans, I'm sorry, but y'all suck anyways. You're used to it. It's fine.
And then, Packers and Vikings. Thielen had a great game. Both quarterbacks went off, but Rodgers, he did his normal thing and, won the game. You got to expect that Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and have great games. You just hope that if you're the other team that you can match that. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's kind of one of those where you have a quarterback that's kind of getting up there, but he still has certain weeks or certain parts of the game where he can still be that dominant guy.
Yeah.
And it never hurts when you feel like your replacement has been drafted, you've been disrespected for extra motivation.
Yeah. And like I said last week when I picked the Packers to win, there's something about when they play games in their division, their division opponents just kind of seem to have this like, oh no, we're playing Green Bay kind of mentality.
Like I said, man, I thought the Vikings would be able to pull it out. They didn't. Hey, it's not the first time I've been wrong. It won't be the last time this year.
Yeah.
But at least I was right on the Bears.
You picked between the Bears and the Lions. Did anybody really win?
Then you look at next 2 games. One of them gets a little personal. So you see the Patriots and the Dolphins, as expected. Patriots, I know we both picked the Patriots because it's the Dolphins to win. Cam had a good game on the ground, a little scuffle afterwards. Some guys tried to rip his chain off, which is clearly a sign of disrespect. And he had a couple of words for him, and they had some things to say to him on Twitter, whatever. But you lose, you get mad, you start doing ignorant stuff. That just shows you're young and you haven't gotten it up here yet. Probably why you lost.
Yeah.
The next game, Eagles and the football team. So I have to say, as a fan, I was completely disappointed in the whole receiving core, except for Dallas Goedert. Everyone that caught passes except for him, I was completely disappointed in. Expect more out of you. My quarterback let me down in every sense of the word. Build a lead and then just decided he just wanted to suck the whole second half. Play calling the second half after actually from about halfway through the second quarter on was, to me, way too pass heavy. As they started to come back, we never broke it up trying to run the ball. I get it, we were down linemen, but the pass wasn't working. Wentz was overthrowing people. And then when he wouldn't make good passes, they would either drop it or not catch it or run wrong or involve the wrong shoulder. Everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong in that second half. Disappointing the coaching staff for not trying to break up the monotony of the same right and left screen passes, the same one or two different routes, and not try to do some things different. I'm going to put that about 75% on my QB. Other 25 I'm going to put on the coaches. And I'm going to simply say next week, Sunday, I don't want to say the same crap again.
It's fair enough, man. It's fair enough. Just out of curiosity, who did y'all lose to again?
The football team.
just had to throw it in a miss.
First time in forever we've lost to them. I mean,
well, technically, man, it's the first time anyone's ever lost to the football team. So congratulations on popping the football team's cherry.
Thank you. Yeah, don't mean
for those of you tuning in on the podcast and not joining us on YouTube, the look that I'm getting is not a very happy one.
One of the games I thought was a really good game on Sunday was the Raiders and Panthers game. I actually caught myself kind of leaning over watching that one a little bit after we got down because clearly we weren't going to come back because Wentz decided he didn't want to come back and the coaches decided to throw the same 4 plays over and over again and hardly ever run the ball.
Yeah.
But the Raiders and the Panthers had a really good game. And Teddy Bridgewater can get the job done.
Yeah.
I know it's 1 week, but it's a couple important things from him. Josh Jacobs is a monster.
Yes, he is.
Glad I was able to grab him in at least one of my leagues. Their wide receivers are okay, but they're good enough because they will catch the ball when their number's called, and they can spread the ball around even without Ruggs. So they didn't have for I think the majority of the second half. And Christian McCaffrey, of course, is a beast. Mm-hmm. And Matt Rule did a Doug Peterson in a way. 4th down play. You've got Christian McCaffrey back there looking like beast Christian McCaffrey. Like he should be tested for performance-enhancing drugs right after the game, swole. And instead of giving him the ball, you give it to your fullback. Granted, on a play that worked earlier, but don't you think if you use a play and it works on a defense earlier, they're probably going to be ready for it the next time you try it?
Especially in a critical situation.
Yeah, so, I think Matt Rule outcoached himself a little bit in that game at the end. Kind of outsmarted himself, but I mean, at least he had the guts to go for it. He's trying to win. He's young, coach. First ever game as an NFL coach. You got to make mistakes. You did make one that cost you the game. Hopefully you'll learn from it.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. I'm still not sold on him long term, but we'll see. It wasn't a bad first outing.
Well, I'll be able to keep you up to date on all things Matt Rule. All you have to do is ask. Sports radio here is Matt Rule and Teddy Bridgewater out.
I'm sure they are, man. But we already knew that Teddy was a capable quarterback. So we'll see, man. I mean, they've made this decision that that's the combination they want to go with. A lot of people obviously were not happy that they pushed Cam out. So, Teddy's got some work to do to satisfy all the Cam lovers out there.
I'll tell you this, man. They talked to Tepper. Tepper's wife is mad at him for getting rid of Cam.
Yeah.
He said that he had never knew that Carolina fans could drop so many F-bombs on Twitter. Apparently, he got destroyed on Twitter for letting Cam go.
Yeah.
See, the thing with Cam in the community, you gotta have some people that were, thrown off by the way he dressed and things like that. But this was a guy that was in the community doing stuff for the kids. So a lot of non-football people who work like in education or work with kids and things like that, they loved Cam because of what he did off the field.
Yeah.
So Bridgewater, if you're going to replace Cam, you have to replace him off the field as well.
Yeah.
That's where the challenge comes in. That's what brought so many fans into the stadium. That's why so many Cam Newton jerseys were being bought, so many T-shirts with Cam Newton on it. Why everyone loved him so much was not just what he did on the field, but what he did for the community off the field.
Yeah.
So coming in behind him, you got big shoes to fill, Teddy. I hope you can fill them, brother.
Yeah.
And then the next game, the Stash versus Phillip Rivers. Minshew Mania. That's all I can say. Jaguars pulled out the win. And Phillip Rivers, I don't know, man. We talked about him before the first game, and I told you it depends on what Phillip Rivers comes out there. And first game, he wasn't terrible. Just didn't do enough to get the job done. But he's got to manage that game a little bit better. He's a veteran, and he's got to use his weapons a little bit more. Difference between what I saw from Phillip Rivers and what I did see of the game, and actually end up watching pieces of it because I know we're going to talk about it. Bridgewater called a lot of audibles in the line, hopping back to Carolina for a second, and only to make a comparison. I didn't see a lot from Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Bridgewater, new to the system. Rivers, new to the system. Obviously, different coaches. But when you're a veteran quarterback and you see things, you've got to react.
Yeah.
I don't think Rivers either knows enough to do that yet or just wasn't comfortable doing it as of yet. You've got to get to that point for that team to be successful because I don't think Rivers has the same arm that he had back when him and Eli started, and that was a long time ago. So just, it'll be something to keep an eye on. One loss, it's not going to kill you, but it's just something you want to keep an eye on.
Well, and here's the thing, man. When you look at that game, what has to be concerning if you're Indianapolis is you really made sure that you beefed up your offensive line. You traded your first-round pick to get DeForest Buckner. You've added other pieces to that defense. You went out and got Phillip Rivers. You're expecting to compete. You're expecting to win that division, hopefully, this year. So to go out and lose to a team like Jacksonville that no one's expecting anything from, that people felt like was basically throwing in the towel before the season even began by trading off everybody, to go and lose to that team, that has to be a major concern. And that's why Indianapolis is very high on my list of teams that have to win week 2.
I hear you. Next game, Browns-Ravens. Browns stunk. Ravens didn't. Not a surprise. Not even that much to talk about. I'm gonna just put 2 games in one here real quick.
I'm gonna give you one comment on Browns Ravens.
Okay.
The Browns were appropriately named.
I'll hop on the Bengals-Browns game from Thursday since we're gonna talk about the game anyway. We're talking about the Browns now, and the Bengals are next. Ironically, Joe Burrow, I like. They lost, and that's okay because they're young and they're not expected to win. But he hung in there. He played well. I saw most of the second half of the game, a little bit of the end of the first half. Very impressed with his pocket awareness. Some of the things that even my own quarterback I get upset about. He just kind of has a handle on it. I guess those are things you either have or you don't.
Yeah.
So not necessarily going to sit and say, oh, he's going to be the next great quarterback. but I think he's a guy that's going to be able to be an NFL starter for the next 10 to 15 years. And that's impressive that Cincinnati was able to identify that if that's what happened, that's what I assume happened. Identified that was the case, and that's why he was drafted by them and why he's starting. So kudos to a young guy with no camp, none of that, to come out and play the way he played the first 2 games. So that's impressive for me.
Yeah, and really, I'm just going to echo what you said, that for him to come out and do that, really, in what's actually his first couple of NFL action games here, it is really impressive because there was no preseason. This is his first experience to NFL speed game against other people trying to hit him were in games that mattered. So for him to come out and play with the kind of poise that he has played with has been really impressive.
Yep. And then, of course, the Bengals and Chargers. Chargers got that win. Tyrod Taylor did what he does. Eckler did what he does. Defense held it up, and they were able to get a win. Bill ran around. He got some yards on the ground as well. But like I said, it's a learning experience there. There's not going to be a lot of games where the Bengals are probably going to be favored this year. Yeah. But if they can keep him healthy and get the right weapons around him, you're working with something. Chargers, they got their quarterback of the future possibly. But right now, it's Tyrod Taylor's game, and he's not going to give it up without a fight because he's been replaced several times.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting because if they could win with Tyrod, then people in Indianapolis continues to struggle. People are going to start saying, was Philip Rivers really the problem?
Yep, absolutely.
And it would be a fair question.
Yep. So I'm going to run through the next 3. I'll run through them and you can just give me whatever your thoughts are on them. You had the Buccaneers and Saints. Brady didn't make all the plays. Drew Brees did. The Saints defense was better. Brady looked human. Not a surprise. His first game, no training camp, any of that. And they lost. Probably the hardest game or team they're going to play this year, but they lost. Cardinals and 49ers. I'll let you talk mostly about that. I'll just say when you let Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins kind of get off, it's difficult, to win when you're letting him run like that, as well as making those plays to DeAndre Hopkins. But again, first game, it is what it is for me. Cowboys and Rams, that call was at least questionable. That cost the Cowboys the game, but you had chances to not be put in that situation. So, Crimea River, it's happened to lots of people before. Yeah. It is what it is.
So, I'll just kind of go through real quick. The Saints-Bucks game, Brady, honestly, he looked like he looked last year. So, not really surprised. I'm not sure why people thought, I guess they thought, oh, he's going to finally have receivers, and he's going to go down there and look good. Well, Tom Brady's the same age as me, and I'm not going to be going to play in the NFL anytime soon. So it's one of those things where I didn't expect a whole lot out of him. I think he'll play better as the season goes on. But anybody expecting Tom Brady to go back to being Tom Brady, you're delusional. The Niners and Cardinals game. So here are my thoughts. I'm not overly concerned about the loss. There's a couple of factors there. We were without our top 2 centers, and most of the pressure that we got put on us was up the middle. We were also without our top 2 wide receivers, and it is very clear that my 3-6 receivers are my 3-6 receivers for a reason, because they were not able to step up into the role of being the 1s and 2s on the team, which is why we have a rookie wide receiver who's really going to be coming in as our number 2 right now. Kittle got injured. That's concerning. Richard Sherman also got injured. So that's also concerning. I'm a little torn in terms of the way we play defensively. I think part of it was being the first real game, not having preseason and all that. A little unfair to ask guys to go out there and chase Kyler Murray and guard DeAndre Hopkins with very little preparation or conditioning work to be able to get ready for real game action. Those guys are both obviously very good. So I do think we played them a little better, hopefully the second time. But you heard me talk about it last year. We did not play well against scrambling quarterbacks. So, I'm hoping it was just conditioning, but it may just be that it's still an Achilles heel for us. And it's definitely something I'm concerned about. And finally, the last thing I'll say is I don't know if it was just a matter of lack of trust in the wide receivers, but Jimmy Garoppolo was late on a lot of throws. He was not very accurate on a lot of his throws. He was not throwing to receivers as they were breaking. He was waiting too long to throw the ball, and he did not play well. I'm putting a lot of blame on him for the loss, and I would just say that he definitely needs to play better. I think this year is a make or break year for him. So he doesn't necessarily have to come out and become league MVP this year, but I need to see some significant growth in terms of his leadership and his ability to go out there and make plays. And then then the Cowboys and Rams game, I give the Rams some credit for going out there and playing well, but I do think that the Cowboys really kind of suffered from what we talked about before was going to probably be the case with them early on, which is brand new coaching staff, having to implement all these new things, learn all these new things, and not really having the opportunity to do that. I think we saw that where they struggled at points in the game to really put together a cohesive plan and actually execute it. So they will probably be okay going forward. I wouldn't be panicking if I was a Cowboys fan, but I will give Rams credit for going out there and handling their business.
Yeah. Now, hop on Monday night real quick. Of course, the Steelers and the Giants. Steelers are the better team, no shot. They won convincingly. Yeah. They should have. Titans and Broncos. Titans are a playoff team last year. They got one of the best running backs in the league. They have enough other weapons with the quarterback they have to make plays, and they did that.
Yeah. It's not really all there is to say. The only thing I'll add to that, super impressive, is that the Steelers were able to hold Saquon Barkley to 6 yards. Ben Roethlisberger actually had more rushing yards than Saquon.
That is impressive.
So.
All right, sir. So we're going to hit these games for this week pretty quick. Giants and Bears got them at 1 p.m. I'm saying the Giants are going to lose 2 in a row. I got the Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that one.
All right, we got Falcons and Cowboys at 1 p.m. I say one of the teams are going to leave there 0-2. It's going to be the Falcons. I think the Cowboys are going to be able to turn around against the Falcons. They don't play much defense and get a win.
I'm actually going to agree with you.
We got Lions and Packers as well. Clearly, I'm going with the Packers.
I'm not
making Bears over Lions. I'm picking the Packers over Lions.
I'm not making the same mistake twice. I'm going Packers.
I got Jags and Titans. I'm gonna take a risk on this one. I'm gonna say the Jags. Start off 2-0.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and
fear the stash, baby. Fear the stash.
Yeah, I'm not fearing the stash. I'm going to go Titans. I'm going to fear Derrick Henry. I'm gonna
Vikings and Colts. Vikings, Colts. I don't know what y'all doing yet. I'm gonna go with the Vikings.
Yeah, until the Colts can show me that they can get it together, I'm gonna have to go for the Vikings. They're not gonna want to go down 0-2.
Bills and Dolphins. I'm gonna go Bills in a tight game.
I'm gonna just go Bills, and it might not even be a tight game, but
49ers and Jets. 49ers are pissed off. They lost the game last week. They're getting a feast on the carcass of the Jets. 49ers.
Yeah, if you were to look after the Arizona loss and think, man, who would I like to play next? The Jets is who I would have picked. So, 49ers.
All right. Rams, Eagles, Lincoln Financial, no fans. Going Eagles. You know why? Homer all the way, baby.
You know, man, as much as I hate to, I would love to see everybody in my division lose every week. I actually think the Rams have a slight advantage in this since there is no home field advantage. So I'm going to go Rams.
All good. Broncos and Steelers. Gonna go Broncos. Excuse me, Steelers. My bad.
I'm also going Steelers.
Panthers and Buccaneers. Panthers.
Chris Godwin is out.
Yes, sir.
Mike Evans may not be 100%.
Yes, sir.
So I'm actually gonna go Carolina. If Mike Evans is healthy, then it would change my vote, but I'm not sure if he's healthy.
And he doesn't seem to have a good rapport with Tom Brady, even if he is healthy.
Yeah.
Football team and Cardinals. I'm gonna go Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and the Cardinals to do what we should have did last week.
You know, I'm going to be interested to see how Washington's front plays against Arizona and see what we can actually learn from it. I'm gonna go with the football team, man. I think the football team is gonna go 2-0. I think they're motivated, man. Their confidence is in an all-time high right now.
When Kyler starts scrambling on him, and then he's not gonna sit there and just be a statue. And DeAndre Hopkins beats that secondary deep. They'll crack.
I might just be hoping that they're going to create a blueprint for beating Arizona for us. That's all.
Chiefs and Chargers. Gonna go Chiefs. I don't see the Chargers winning this game. If they do, I'd be surprised. I don't see it happen.
So Patrick Mahomes is already in postseason form. I'm gonna go Chiefs.
Ravens and Texans. You won't get me to go against the Ravens for a team with no real wide receivers. Ravens.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ravens too.
Now here's a good one Sunday night. Patriots and Seahawks. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say Patriots because I think they're going to take the Seahawks and do what the Seahawks normally like to do and run the ball down your throat with like 10 different people.
Yeah, I'm also going to go Patriots. Russell Wilson is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. But if there is a guy out there who has had some success against Russell Wilson in the past, it is Bill Belichick. He knows what it takes to slow that offense down. So I'm actually going to go New England.
And in the Monday night game, we got the Saints. We have the Raiders. So we got a team that is running the ball, coming off a big win against the Panthers. We got a team who seems to be hitting pretty well on all their cylinders, coming off a big win against Tampa Bay, who they were told all season was going to be the team to dethrone them in their division, and, all those things. I'm going to go Raiders.
I'm going to go Saints.
I think the Raiders have what it takes to take the Saints down. They're coming off the high from beating Tampa Bay. Jacobs can have another monster game on the ground. They got a great tight end in Waller. Derek Carr constantly feels disrespected. It's a perfect storm for the Saints to catch an early season L.
I think Derek Carr deserves to be constantly disrespected, so that's why I'm picking the Saints.
Well, there you have it, guys. Got through talk about last week, made our picks for this week. I took a couple of upset possibilities, mix it up a little bit, and we'll see. I'll probably be wrong on most of them, but hey, I didn't put money on them, so it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, the worst thing that happens is, our egos take a little bit of a hit, right?
But the Eagles are going to win.
Hey, man, I can confidently say the 49ers are going to win against the Jets. And if we somehow lose to the Jets, you might be hosting a show by yourself next week. I might have to take that week off. Otherwise, we'll have the highest turnout ever. Everybody, the whole show would just be talking about the 49ers game. I'll be like, guys,
you gotta come on if y'all lose. You guys, everybody gonna be on that.
I'll be like, bro, can we talk about something else? Anything else?
We just gonna be like, 49ers lost, go.
I was like, I'm just gonna let y'all talk and Cool's actually going to actually just run the show tonight. I'll be in the chat communicating with all of you in the chat. That way we can actually have a show and talk to you guys.
Hey, that might be all we have if y'all happen to lose this game. But we play, we hope, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, man.
Well, everybody, with that being said, we have now approached the 65-minute mark.
Indeed.
And there's a Lakers and Nuggets game that is now underway. So we're going to bid you adieu in our normal manner.
Yes. So just want to once again just remind everybody that the Lakers are going to win in 6. And Cool thinks they're going to win in 7. But the important thing is we agree that the Lakers are going to win the series. So that's what's really important.
But do feel that the Nuggets get to game 7, make it happen. But if we have to pick now, without seeing the game, I have to say the team with the more experience and the MVP runner-up should be able to get it done.
Well, then, with that, I just want to once again remind everybody, please hit the like button. Join us next week. Hit the subscribe button as well. Join us next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Go ahead and jump in the chat. Participate with us and be a part of the show. If you can't be here on Friday nights, you can also catch us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and several other places. The link is going to be in the description of the video, so that way you can go see everywhere that you can check out the Play Callers podcast. But as always, man, even the sun goes down,
heroes eventually die,
and horoscopes often lie.
But sometimes why?
None is for certain.
None is for certain.
Until they close the curtain,
it's him and I.
The Play Callers. Y'all better know that.
From the ATL to the QC.
Yeah.
Go Nuggets. Go Eagles.
Go Lakers. Niners.
Go Hurricanes.
Yeah, go Noles, but we're on the bye week. That's our best hope.
Tough, man. Tough.
See y'all next week, man.